Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Transcendent as Fuck with Iena SpiritWalker. And here we break down all the challenges and blessings of being a spiritual being in a meat sack. And we also help you tap into your superpowers. Today, I have the beautiful Martine Shelley. And our topic today is healing generational motherlines. Martine, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Iena. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you.
So why don't you firstly tell the audience who you are and what you do? Let's get started with that.
Yeah, so I'm Martine. I live in Devon, UK, with my three sons who we home educate. And I'm in the middle of transitioning my work from being in the real world to the online world. And my work is working with women, helping them to unravel their generational mother lines so that they can step into their true, real, authentic self and find inner peace. Because when you've grown up with mother wounds and generational wounds, our inner worlds can be chaos. So I help people find the calm in the chaos.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. Well, I'm excited to just start unpacking this. So can you tell
Mm.
us what are generational mother lines? Let's start there.
Yeah, my fascination and my passion for healing the mother line started when I was a very young child. My spirit, my soul recognized that there was wounds in my past that were impacting my family, and my spirit needed to find out what was going on. I needed to understand the bigger picture. And so it became a very private, personal inner journey throughout my whole life, where I was observing interactions, social interactions, families, understanding the dynamics within families to try and pick this apart and find out why there were so many wounds within my family. And so over the years, I've trained as a breastfeeding support worker. I worked as a doula, obviously became a mother myself. And although I thought that I'd done an awful lot of healing and repair work before I became a mother, when I became a mother, I realized that I'd not even touched the surface. And that actually my wounds went a lot deeper than I knew. And it was that moment of holding my first son when he was 4 days old and he was crying, and I looked down at him, and my intuitions that have been shouting to me my whole life were silent. I found the wound, I saw the gap, and that then started a 15 years dedicated, passionate study and personal experience within our family of unraveling this and bringing healing to it. So also working with women in the community as a doula and support worker, breastfeeding. So I've just been working with women for over a decade. I've done a lot of healing within my family over the last 15 years. And my passion really became healing this mother line, because you have the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And these are the stages, they represent the three stages of our life. Obviously, our childhood, our adulthood, and our crone. And as you look back through your families, you will see this recurring and recurring. It's there. This thread that runs through the family within the women is how it's the protector of the inner worlds of our families. And as the women within it, we are the protectors of our souls within our families. And when you have a break in the line of the knowledge and the wisdom coming down from the crone to the mother to the maiden, you lose information, you lose wisdom. There's gaps in our knowledge, and it can have a really deep impact on stepping into a role authentically and becoming your authentic self. So within my own story, very briefly, my matriarchal grandmother, she passed away when my mother was 9 months old, and so I knew that would have an impact on me. How can it not? I was seeing it and feeling it, but I didn't know what I was trying to get to on the other side. So but repairing those relationships within our families can be incredibly difficult. So the way in which I work is that learning how to repair those relationships away from your family, learning how to find our sisterhoods, learning how to find our wise women, learning how to find our community of women that gives us that support that we should have had, but it's away from the family where those wounds and those core wounds were. So it helps us to kind of gain some of that wisdom that we were missing, that we didn't receive. So that really is the Motherline, and that's sort of my passion and what I work with.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so much. I have so many questions. I'm going to try to reel it in.
I feel like I'm rambling, but it's one of those topics that when you start talking about it, people just go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no. Okay, so you were talking about a break in the line, and then you gave an example of your grandmother who had passed when your mother was young. So can you expand a little bit on what is a break in the line, and what would that cause? I know you said the wisdom isn't passed down, but can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we have stages of brain development. We know this, yeah.
Yes.
Each of those stages of brain development when we're young is guided by our people and the environment and the people around us. So if you go through, so for the first number of months that we're born, we should remain in this protective energy of our mother. That's what keeps us connected, and it keeps our energy flowing and our energy moving, and that part of the brain developing, so that we can step into that next part of development healthily. And it also creates pathways in the brain for us to be able to nurture, and for us to be able to have compassion and be able to give compassion. So it creates pathways in the brain. If you do not go through the experiences as we should through nature, as we see in mammals, as we see in the wild, if we don't go through those stages of development in entirety, then it can create issues with the pathways in our brain, so that when we step into the mother role ourselves, the brain goes, I've got nothing. It's invisible. It's like you've opened a door to nothing. So I referenced that when my son was 4 days old, I looked down and I felt nothing. That was the first time in my life that my intuitions had not spoken to me. And that showed me that the disruptions within my development happened from when I was a baby. And that happened because my mother had experienced such deep trauma that she didn't have those pathways. She didn't have that wisdom. She didn't have the ability to be able to nurture. All she could do was function and survive. So those pathways weren't created in my mind. So I wasn't able to give that nurture, and that unconditional emotional availability to my son when he was first born. And then that went on and caused him issues, which we then had to repair down the line. So the impact on my son, on his development, happened 35 years before I was born, when my grandma passed away. And so my son is a causation that has had the impacts of these generational wounds, but we've been able to repair them. I had to step back into providing that the nurture that we give to our newborns. I had to go back to that stage of development with my son and go through that again with him, so that his brain could go through those pathways and that experience properly and develop healthily. And once we did that, and we did that by literally creating a den area in his bedroom, and I slept in there with him. There was no pressure on him. I treated him like a newborn baby.
How old was he then?
10.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Did he receive that well?
So it is yes and no. He did receive it well in the end, but at the start, no, he couldn't, because there wasn't safety between us. There wasn't the depth of safety that you need to be able to hold mother and baby in arms. He couldn't stay in that position with me. So I slept on the floor in his bedroom, and he couldn't sleep. So he was awake a lot at night, and he would sit over the end of the bed, just keep looking down at me. After 2 weeks, he eventually felt comfortable to come and lie with me. And after another 2 weeks, we were able to embrace in a mother-son position in the bed and swaddle together. And then I knew that I tapped in to that primitive pathway within the brain that needs to be activated which was missing in him. When there's an issue with someone feeling safe, that's the part of the brain that's been wounded. So that's the part of the brain that I needed to heal, was his literally first stage of development, as if he was a newborn baby. And as soon as he crossed over that boundary to feel safe in my presence, because I had learned how to regulate my emotions, I'd learned how to be safe around him emotionally, and I'd learned how to feel safe through touch, it was like instant. It's like this switch went off, and all of a sudden you could just see him elevate, and he just lifted up to the next level. And it was just, and so we just kept going through this process of the stages of development to help repair his trauma that he had gone through, because I was traumatized, because my mother was traumatized, because she lost her mother. So that's how these wounds come down and come down through us, is through our development. If we haven't gone through a healthy experience of a safe connection, you literally don't know how to do it, and you don't know how to give it. So that's, yeah. So yeah, there we go.
Amazing. Okay.
I could go on and on and on.
I love it. And we don't know what we don't know. I love that you touched on that as well. And, you know, listening to you talk about the neural pathways in the brain, which is something I'm really passionate about too. It reminds me also that our nervous system is deeply affected by the neural pathways and how our brain functions. That puts us into fight or flight. That puts us in survival mode. I mean, there's like a whole chain of events that happens when neural pathways either aren't functioning properly or missing. And this definitely, I'm intuiting that this feels like a healing in mind, body, and spirit. This is like, and obviously through the generations, as you've said.
Holistically as well, not through going out to a breathwork session or to a therapy session or to a yoga session. It's been done holistically within the family home, because that's where the wounds happened. And to get to the real core of where our wounds happened, we have to heal them in the same environment that they were created. And if that was created in a family environment, then that was there. It's the same as medical trauma. If you have medical trauma, you can't heal that at home. You have to heal that within that realm. You can do the mind work, but the healing of the experience comes from being within it. So yes, we very much did it holistically, organically at home.
That's amazing. What a beautiful experience that not only you're able to provide to your son, but you're able to provide for people across the globe now and their generational lineage as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
like
really
excited.
I know. This is such an amazing topic, isn't it? It's such an amazing topic. I'm really excited to get my work going online. I just because I know the people who I have worked with away from the online world, it's been life-changing for them. Even if it's simply changing one tiny perspective of your understanding, it can be life-changing to understand that this inner chaos that you're feeling, this person that you've become once you're a mother who you don't recognize, it's not you. It's so much bigger. And to have that understanding and to know that it's not you can just remove such weight from your shoulders. This is not your burden to carry, but it's your burden to heal. And we can do that.
That's beautiful. And I really connect with this too on so many levels, but I'm always telling my clients how important it is to do ancestral healing. And this is really specific and really dialed in. And so what your clients can do is not only provide healing for themselves, healing within their own family, but they can be the catalyst to break the chain of the trauma from here on out through the rest of their lineage. And that's amazing.
And hearing, I mean, when you hear your son say, oh, I've made a connection as to why I have difficulty with my sleep, it's because it's triggering an abandonment wound from when you were leaving me at school. You know, when you're just like, it's one of those moments, you're like, mic drop, my work here is done.
Right. The student has surpassed the teacher. Thank you very much.
Sometimes I do think he's got more emotional intelligence than me, because I had to repair mine so much, but he's not had as much to repair. And so he's, you know, I sometimes feel like he's got more emotional maturity than we do at times.
That's so amazing. Oh my gosh. Martine, can you give us a brief idea of how people can start uncovering the relationships in their mother line, what can people start doing at home to start digging into this?
You just look at the relationship with your mother. And it's so difficult, this going into this subject, because so many people look back and they, of course, they love their mothers. They adore their mothers. And in their mind, they had the most wonderful childhood. And that's true. None of this work takes away from that. The place that you're looking to is deeper within you. It's not about that external dynamic. When you were younger, it's looking at where would you go when you had your emotions? Did you get the support that you needed to with your emotions? Did you feel like you were alone as a child going through your emotional stuff? So you begin to look at the dynamic that you had with that emotional connection with your mother. And then you can look at the connection your mother had with her mother, and you can see, is it healthy? Is it whole? Is it connected? Is it authentic? And if the answer is yes, then you go back up. And if you can see a healthy maiden mother crone line in your family, then you have a golden ticket in life, and you have no idea what you have received whatsoever. Because for those of us who didn't, it's shattering to have not received this and to have not had this. And it can be quite difficult to navigate if you are someone who's had a healthy mother line, to be around people who haven't, because you cannot make sense. If you cannot understand each other. You don't understand why people don't feel like this or think like this. So it can be quite a confusing thing to delve into if you're new to looking at your mother line. I mean, it's such a big, deep subject that I won't go into it too deeply, because I don't want to be bringing up anyone's big stuff. But it's just simply looking at the relationships, looking at the dynamics, looking at how your parents had a relationship, looking at how your grandparents had it. So it's just looking at all those different angles of it, and seeing if there are dysfunctional relationships amongst that. And if there are, then there'll be dysfunctional behavior. And if there's dysfunctional behavior, there's trauma.
Mm-hmm. Again, my head is still spinning. So I imagine my audience is also like, holy shit, because that's where I am right now, you guys. I'm literally thinking of, my mind just went to moments when my daughter was young. I have a son and a daughter. They're in their mid-20s now. And trying to play with my daughter when she was young. And I say trying to because it felt very forced. And there were times where I actually almost fell asleep. And my mother never played with me. It was very traditional, like, cook and clean. That was her job. And playing with the kids was not. We were, and I think a lot of people were left to entertain themselves. And so that's so interesting, connecting.
So what are
those
the
dots.
pathways? So one of our core, what's the right word? My brain's gone. One of our inner systems is seeking and play. And when we play, it creates neural pathways like that. And when we're having to learn away from play, it takes such a long time. And in your situation, it sounds like your mother functioned through your life and she made sure everything happened.
Right.
But she wasn't able to come in and play and connect in that way. Because that requires you to be in a different place within your mind. It requires you to not be in that logical headspace of making sure everything happens. That requires for you to come into the body and go into the feeling and the emotion. And it's insane how just those little things have such a big impact, because then your mother didn't play with you. You didn't play with your children. Generational trauma. It's as simple as that. I know someone who had food issues her whole life. She never understood why she had food issues. Really picky eater. And then her daughter was the same. Not her son, but her daughter was the same. And this was years back when I was doing my doula training. And we went home after the first weekend's break, and then she came back the following weekend and she said, "You will not believe this." She said, "I was talking to my mum about my food issues." And she just looked at me and she said, yeah, that will come from your grandma. And she said, "Well, why?" She said, "Because your grandma was anorexic."
Oh.
So those habits, the habitual habits that form around anorexia. She isn't anorexic, but she has the behaviors of anorexia around her, but doesn't know why. So she couldn't unpick it until
Mhm.
she connected it to the generational wound and then went, this isn't mine to carry. And you
Yes.
can lay it back where it came from. And all those habits and the behaviors and the quirkiness that she had around food that she was still holding, the stress, the weight, the burden was causing her body harm. So when you're able to drop them and let them go and go, these habits are not mine, it's almost like shedding a skin that you, like a snake shedding its skin, but you know it never belonged to you. And it just feels, you feel so free. And so this is just exactly as you say with that play system. This is how our generational wounds get passed down.
That is so amazing. All right, Martine, I have 5 million more questions, and I'm sure we could talk for several hours, but I'm so grateful that you were able to carve out some time and jump on
Mm.
here. And I'm curious, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've gone into some good stuff, but like you say, we could go on talking about this for a long time. All I would say is that if you have not begun looking at your generational mother line, it's valid and it's something that's really important to look into. You see lots of stuff in the wellness spaces about don't look back, you must look forward and create your future. But as we have now just realized through this call, if you don't connect the fact that you couldn't play with your children back to your mother and wherever that came from with her, you will always be thinking about it from that same perspective that that was an issue with you. So we have to look back, not because we want to go into our pain and really, yeah, let's get down into the trauma. And that happens naturally anyway, but because that part of you that thought it was you needs to be laid to rest and put where it needs to be. So if you haven't begun the journey of looking back at your mother wounds and your mother line and your generational healing, gently start.
Get off your ass and do it. This is some important shit. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really is.
Yeah, Martine. And also, no matter where you are consuming this podcast, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you are, Martine has left 2 links for you to connect with her. So, Martine, do you want to tell us what those links are?
Yeah, so one is a link to my Facebook community, and that is just a group where there are women who are on their motherline healing journey, whether they're at the start, whether they're 10 years in, or whether they're 20 years in. We have maidens, mothers, crones, all within. So it's a very open space. It's a bit of a sanctuary to come and offload, to share. But I post in there trying to help people have that change of perspective. And the other link is a link to my free mother wound healing guide, which is a very basic overview of the process of healing mother wounds. There's no certificate at the end of healing mother wounds. I must say that. There's no end place where someone's going to say you've passed. It's a lifelong journey that you choose to walk down. And that the mother wound healing guide is just a gentle guide to help you see the picture of it.
That is amazing. Martine, Shelley, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for illuminating us on healing generational mother lines. Again, you guys, if you want to stay connected with Martine, please click those links, get all her good stuff, get in her group and Facebook. We're so grateful that you were here today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Woohoo! Okay. We love you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.